Hello, my name is Ren and welcome to ArtFart. Today, we will be looking at design bloat, specifically from the lens of notorious bloat maker Hoyoverse. So the new Honkai game came out recently, Honkai Star Rail, and well, I've been playing a fair shake of it. And one thing that I love to love and love to hate is the character designs. This is a problem that definitely did not start here. Gee, I've been looking at bloated Genshin designs for how long now? But it is one thing that has been bothering me for just about forever. So it's time to air some grievances and get to redesigning. So this is a gacha game. One to lure you in with pretty characters so they can snatch your money away with their little raccoon hands. But dear God, these characters are stuffed with visual bloat. Their designs, while they do look pretty at a distance, I always find myself lured into their little details with just a question on my mind. Why? Not that looking good has to be purely practical, but these designs really tip the scales out of balance. I think a pain point for me is the way that they fit into the world. In a room full of playable main characters, they all certainly do look like main characters. But the second you see a named and voiced NPC trying to engage in a detailed conversation with them, the veil falls apart. But really, just look at them next to NPCs. It's not just that they look more detailed than them. I don't really have much of a problem with that. Pretty much every piece of media you can find does this. It's just that more often than not, they look extremely out of place in comparison. Just look at Sealer next to NPCs. Whew, probably the worst offender of them all. Now whilst that is a whole can of worms that I'm gonna leave closed for now, hit me up if you want to hear me go on and on about that one. Let's take a look at another character, one that I really do like the design of, Dan Heng, and let's break him down a bit. I think with most Toyo characters, their base really isn't bad. This guy is just a dude. He's simple with a distinguishable expression. I also think that they tend to do colours really well, typically taking some neutrals, adding one main colour and one highlight colour. My problem comes in with the clothes, the shapes, the details. Let's not dance around it. The visual clutter. Looking at these things always strikes me with the feeling, where the hell did you buy something like that? These designs are filled with detail all over, leaving very little space for the eye to rest. It's busy and it's messy. And if you like these, good for you. Maximalism is a great look for those who can stomach it. But I, with an overactive sense of clothing utility, just keep asking myself, why? So what are the elements of Dan Heng that make him unique? Let's start easy, the colours. His neutrals are black, grey and white. His main colour is teal. His secondary colour is gold, which I guess can also be a neutral based on its usage. And his highlight is red. The teal and red really add to his mystique in a way that's evocative of Chinese dragons, and the darkness over his general colour palette makes it feel like he's hiding things. I like that, so that's good. No need to fix what isn't broken. Second is themes. We already touched on the dragon theme, so let's add that to the list. But the main vibe that I get from his design is modern mixed with traditional. He has many elements of both in his design. His earrings look like headphones with a little volume adjuster, the zippers are zippers. He has a form-fitting shirt and sneaker-like shoes, all of which give him a modern and a trendy air. On the traditional side though, he has elements of carved jade, swirling patterns, armor pieces, and this thing, sticking out right here. We'll get to this later, but it's reminiscent of Chinese traditional cloth belts. The high waist in his pants and the general shape of his coat also run the same purpose. Another theme that I can see parts of is symmetry. Actually no, asymmetry. No, maybe I was right in the first place. This design is sort of stuck in the middle here. Perhaps it was trying to do both somehow, melding the order of symmetry with the chaos of asymmetry, but it really ends up doing neither particularly well. I'll put a pin in this one for later. So, on to the redesign, I guess. Here we go! As you do, I started with a pose. Since this is a redesign and not a character showcase, I just kept the pose very simple. Just a full-length standing pose, so I can show off as much of the design in one angle. This sort of 3/4 is the T-pose of 2D designs, so as much as I wanted to do a more fun pose, it wasn't quite right for this purpose. You can add a bit of personality into a simple stand anyway. Dan Heng is more of a stoic type and isn't very expressive with his body, so a casual pose like this works fine for him. Onto the sketch, starting with the face. I didn't change anything about the design of his person. Hoyo tends to do good people, just with interesting outfits. Give him a high cheek, a nose, some broody eyes, an expressionless mouth, and some fluffy hair, and you're done. I also thickened up his eyebrows, just for fun. Onto the clothes now. Overall, I wanted to keep his original silhouette pretty faithful. It's slim and not very flashy. The length of a coat makes him feel tall, even if he isn't, and no part of his silhouette has distinct visual weight over one another, drawing attention to his head and face. It's all very closed in, with a lot of straight lines, giving him an orderly sort of impression. Now, onto this whole belt situation. There's a lot going on here, and well, I really don't like it. It's a lot. There's a bunch of non-cohesive shapes, and this part just inexplicably sticks right into his pants. I knew I had to strip this area down hard. Most defined shapes for this area stayed, the rest went. This cloth triangle here is the most iconic part. It leads the eye upwards and has these cute details, so I used and expanded it, using that shape as the basis for the belts. I gave it a sensible bottom, making it into a single cloth piece, and absorbing the elements of the other belts into this one. I did want to keep that belt layering effect, so I used an altered version of the bottom leather belt as the top belt, and changed the tassel from a shoulder accessory to an accent in the belt area. Moving it here clears up the shoulder, giving it a bit more clarity, as well as adding some length and variety to the center of the design. For the shoes, they seemed a bit more sneaker-like in my mind, so I went with that, keeping him with that kind of modern feel. The shoes are a bit of a pain point for me, but I wanted to keep that sort of horizontal strap and teal tongue, as well as bringing that swirling design down, making it a bit more prominent. One thing I really wanted to address with this redesign is the symmetry-asymmetry paradox the original design has going, and pushed him to be a bit more asymmetrical overall. I took that small cloud swirl on his pants and made it a bit more of a significant part of his look. The swirls take up a large portion of his left side and draw the eye upwards towards his face. The pattern starts on his shoe and sock, moves up his leg, jumps to the arm, whilst the length of the tassel takes up the space there, then moves it up to his shirt, where it takes up his chest and neck. It feels more cohesive like this, gives a bit more of a purpose to the swirls, allowing them to lead the eye as well as making the Chinese dragon vibe he has more significant through the symbols. There's also this pauldron here, that I have no idea what it's doing in the original design. It certainly is a shape, but I can't really make it out as anything. It seems so significant. It's a whole detailed section that feels like it boils into nothing. All these armor chunks have these interesting shapes, but what they are is something I have no clue about. It has all of these elements like it's supposed to be something. These eye-like shapes, the interconnected sections. So it's frustrating to look at. I feel like I should know what it is, but I'm coming up empty every time. So, I made it into something a bit more recognizable. I went for a bit more of a dragon mask look. It's wispy and has these loose shapes to join it visually to the swirling designs elsewhere. Gave it some more distinct features. Some horns, eye holes, a jawbone, to make it actually look like something. And even if it doesn't read quite as dragon, it still has those elements of a face, making it instantly more recognizable. In terms of the jacket, I wanted to, contrarily, make it more symmetrical, more garment-like, I guess. I feel like mirroring the details on both sides of the jacket go a long way in the cohesiveness here. The collar is teal on both sides, the gold shoulder is on both shoulders, and it makes a bit more sense when zoomed out. And now onto the shirt. I really tried to do something with this damn ribbon. I really wanted to give it a purpose, have it be tied to something in the outfit. I'd imagined for a while using it to cross over his chest or connect it to the armor, using it as reinforcement to keep the piece on, but I really couldn't get it to work in the end. The crossover design I wanted to use was far too eye-catching. It was directing attention away from his face into a kind of nothing area. Which is a real shame, since the ribbon has been bothering me so much since the first time I laid eyes on it. but I had to remove it in the end. Keeping the chest area much more clean was one of my goals after all. And clean I kept it. There are a lot of little bits on this shirt that feel a bit cluttered. I really wish that the designers had just chosen one or two of these elements instead of slapping them all on there together. So I just kept the ones that make most sense. The double zippers are iconic and the cloud swirls make more sense with the other elements I've used so far. I tried out using them on both sides, but it felt a bit suffocating in my opinion, so I just used one. More attention grabbing that way. Next, I slapped down some rough colours. In terms of the colours, I kept them mostly the same. As I said earlier, I very much do like the original choice of colours and the weighting of the palette. I think the colours suit him and his intent, so I didn't really want to mess with them too much. Most of the colours I used was straight up colour picked in fact, though in doing that, I realised just how many colours there actually are in this design. Pretty much every colour in the original is a slightly different shade of another. Every little piece has its own unique colour, which I can forgive for the legs, since there's a strong gradient there to lead the eye upwards. But in these teals, it's unforgivable. There is no need for so many different shades in here, let alone this arm section, which is in fact a light blue? So I really take no shame in flattening out this palette and just using two teals for the main body, a light for most areas and a dark for a few key areas of contrast in the belt and the under eye of the shoulder piece. I also completely removed that leathery brown from the design, as it didn't really have any good places to be used, as well as feeling a bit out of place in the design originally, as it was just sitting there hiding under the other elements. Also, since I really do like that little pop of red, I wanted to make it a touch more prominent in my design. I think that the red ribbon holding up the tassel in the original is really cute, so I had to keep that intact. And using it as part of the belt really helps to break up the teal blob problem. Now onto the line art and colours and details and all that. And as a last minute addition, I wanted to add in his weapon too. I don't really have much of a problem with it in the first place, but still, the boy felt incomplete without it. I kept the vibe pretty much the same, and most of the choices I made here were more on the personal taste end of the scale, just choosing to smooth out some of the very mechanical, detailed shapes in the original, making them a bit more smooth and cohesive. I also adjusted the visual weight up to the spearhead rather than settling on the orb, and I put the hand grip actually where his hand sits. I also added a little tassel to the end because, well, I love myself a good little tassel. And here we have it. There's the finished redesign. Overall, I really do like how he turned out. I combined the aspects of the design I really liked into a design that I really liked. And I'm particularly proud of the way that I worked the swirls into the design and pushed the asymmetry vibe in a more cohesive direction. All in all, design clutter is something to be wary of. You risk an over-designed mess if you don't take to it with a really careful eye. Stick to your themes and lay out your plans first so you don't lose sight of them. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and if you really liked it, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi. Bye bye now!